Yo, yo, what is good, everybody? This is your boy Darkstar, and with my guest host, as usual, my boy Johnny D. What up, Johnny?
How's it going, man?
You know, same shit, different day. Man, I really had to touch on this subject just because of apparently, just because of something that happened on a Facebook post, and I guess some people don't know the difference between tokenization, gender bending, race bending, and it's like, you know what?
You
Why don't
got
we
a
just break it the
slight echo going, by the way.
Oh, sorry about that. Give me a minute. Hang on. Is it still there?
That sounds better.
Okay. Fuck it all the way now. But yeah, definitely want to freaking touch on that because some people don't know the difference. You and I both know that. There are some people that just do not know the difference. So we're just gonna kind of break it down a little bit. And yeah, those examples that you sent me on, that you sent me, ironically, they fall under the under one of these categories that I was actually going to bring up as an example. So we'll definitely go ahead and get into that. Just before I do, I did want to go ahead and give a little bit of a PSA. Just the month that we're in right now. I mean, besides Happy Pride Month, there's also another thing I do want to touch on and highlight, and that is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. This is also that time too. I do want to take the time that, like, if you are male and if you're really going through some stuff, I mean, really really hard times, you know, definitely reach out, and yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to take that leap of faith and just ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, man. I mean, I can tell you as someone that's been there, you know, and I'll just kind of give just a brief story, my situation, about 8 years ago, I almost ended up offing myself because it was just between a bunch of stuff going on in the military, things going on with my marriage, and all that stuff. And yeah, if it wasn't for my kitten at the time, which, may she rest in peace, and all my friends in the military, I probably wouldn't still be here. Yes, I said my kitten. It's a long, drawn out, dragged out story. I'm not even going to get into it. But yeah, just the fact that, I reached out for help, and, now, I got counseling. I'm able to deal with, my mental health issues, you know what I mean? So just like I said, if you know somebody's going through it, or if you're going through it yourself, don't be afraid to ask for help, because a lot of times when it comes to men's mental health, it's one of those things that always gets overlooked. It really does get overlooked. So I just wanted to take the time, to bring a little bit of awareness to that. Yeah, that's my only PSA. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it, man. So you know the definition of the difference, right, Johnny?
What are we
Like
going back to here? Sorry. I'm still
just
on
the def.
mental health.
Oh, sorry about that, man. Yeah, it was just I had to bring awareness to that, man, because at that time I'm on. But yeah, the definition between tokenization, gender bending, and race bending.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's obvious, but I also feel like a lot of people don't register it. You know what I mean? So give it to the people.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get into it. So let's just start with the easiest one, race bending. Race bending is when you take an existing character and the only thing that you change about the character is their race. That's it. That's the only thing that really pretty much gets changed. They still have the same origin story, same powers, all that good stuff. Everything pretty much stays the same. The only thing that changes is their race. Now, gender bending is pretty much the same thing as race bending. The only difference is you're just changing the gender. Sometimes it even means changing the name to a female version of the name, but in all actuality, it's the same character. Now, tokenization, this is where it gets tricky and it's hard for some people to understand. Now, tokenization is when you kind of somewhat take an existing character and make another version of the character that still exists with the same character they're based off of. And let me kind of give the easiest example I can give is you have the Hulk and She-Hulk. That's a prime example. She's pretty much just like the Hulk. Only difference is She's just a female, and not only that, her origin, her backstory is completely different. She doesn't even share the same name as the Hulk.
Right.
And
Also,
then,
Blue Beetle.
yep, thank you. That's another one I was going to bring out too. And then the one that always gets fucked up and gets sometimes complicated is the Superman ones. Now, let's kind of break that one down a little bit because of the two names you mentioned. Hernan Guerrera. Technically, you can say he is a race swap version of Superman, but not really. And the reason why that doesn't count is because he's technically not even Kal-El. He's
Well,
not even the son of Jor-El. He's actually the son of General Zod.
well, here's why I tell you I counted. All right, and this is where it gets tricky because, like, you know me, I look like a white person. The fact that I'm half Hispanic, like, I have to tell people that you can't just look at me and know.
Yep.
But I do identify as Hispanic. I identify as mixed race because I was raised around all that, and that's part of my culture. And
Right.
when I look at this character, and I've also because there were a few comic books that came out, and I have those as well, and I've read them. And so it gets into a little bit of like how he grew up and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, he grew up around a Hispanic family, very Hispanic, and it's like I feel such like a kinship to it because he was the white boy raised around all Hispanics. I was the
Yep.
white boy raised around all Hispanics. And so when I see him, it's like that's one of my um like one of my characters that I look at, my representation characters. He is a representation character of me because he has that duality of I'm this but I'm not this. I'm this but
Yeah.
most people don't accept me as this. Only like close members of my family do, most people don't. And so it's like
Yeah.
because I identify with him and because I identify as um Hispanic, even though he has no real human race, I still stick him in the Hispanic category because that's where I feel I belong. Or
I would have
you
stuck
know
him
what I
there
mean?
regardless, bro. I would
And
have stuck him there regardless.
and
You know.
but yeah, it's like you said because he's only half Superman because he's still got the same mom. But yeah, the whole story for y'all who don't know is um General Zod. Clark's parents, Kal-El's parents were getting ready to. They were basically going to put their DNA into a thing, and the ship was going to make the baby as it was being transferred. And
Yep.
instead, Zod put his DNA in instead, and so that is Zod's son that lands in a slightly different part of Earth and is adopted by migrant parents. For those of
Yeah.
y'all
He
who are
landed in
unfamiliar with the
Mexico.
character,
Yeah, he landed in Mexico, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I thought he landed close to the border. I
Yeah.
thought like they were already
Yeah.
in America.
Yeah, it was either Mexico or it's close to the border. It's one of the two. I have to go back and watch Justice League Gods and Monsters. I have to go back and watch that again because to be fair, it's been a minute since I've seen Justice League Gods and Monsters. Which, by the way, if y'all have not seen that, man, y'all are missing out on a gem. That
Bruce
one is a
Tim.
hidden gem.
Bruce
Yeah.
Tim reimagines the Trinity.
Oh yeah, and honestly, that version of the Trinity is fucking fire. It is fucking fire, especially Batman, because that version of Batman, a lot of people, what some people don't know, not only is it not Bruce Wayne, but it's actually
Man
what's
Bat.
his name? Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that's who it was. That thing. That's who it is.
But yeah, it was because it was normally Dr. Robert Kirk
Yeah,
Langstrom becomes the Man Bat. That's like the very first episode of the animated series was him going up against the Man Bat. We've seen him in various other cartoons here and there. In this
yeah,
version, he instead becomes a
a
vampire.
vampire.
Here's the part that they don't tell you that you read about in the comics. You're saying, okay, he becomes this character and now he's Batman, but what's stopping Batman from also being Batman? And like, aren't Bruce's parents still going to get killed? No, because um, Langstrom actually kills Joe Chill,
Yep.
and that's why it never tells you when in the timeline, but you can kind of assume that if Bruce never becomes Batman, it's probably because his parents didn't die, and if his parents didn't die, it's because yeah, this guy was killed.
Yeah, because I know they did a prequel comic book for it too. I know I was never able to get a hold of it, but I know they did a prequel comic book. But
Yeah, so what it
yeah,
was is there was a three-part one that was all three of them, and then there were
mhm.
three individuals, and each one of them
Yeah,
had their
that's the one I'm
own
thinking about.
individual one. And so
Yeah,
I I've got all of them. I've read all of them, and I like so that's
yeah,
where that story comes from. And then he accidentally crippled his sister. He was
yeah,
playing around when he shouldn't have been. Knocked her out of a tree. Didn't get there in time, and he spent the rest of his life knowing because he wanted to screw around and not take his power seriously. His sister
yeah,
has to live the rest of her life in a wheelchair, which she never held against him.
yeah. Which honestly, I think she was scared of him. But you know what? Let me shut the fuck up. I'm not even gonna speculate on that and try to get in that character's head. But but anyway, that was actually a good one. Definitely a good one. But yeah, it's like when we think about all these different characters, it's like we got to ask ourselves this question when we talk about the tokenization and race bending and the gender bending. Is it good or is it bad? Um,
I think it's
I can
just
tell you,
overdone.
yeah, I was gonna say not even overdone, but I think with the race bending, I'm gonna be honest with that one. I think sometimes it is a bad thing, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because let's give an example. Let's say if we talk about, we'll use the X Men as an example, okay? Like and I told you about this whole little spat that I got into with somebody on Facebook about race bending Cyclops as an example, right?
Right.
Here's the issue with that. What's the point of race bending Cyclops? Like, that's something I've never understand is what's the point of race bending any of the X Men characters? Because this is my thing. It's not like there isn't any black X-Men characters. People act like there isn't any black X-Men characters, and they think Storm is the only black X-Men character, Storm or Bishop. That's like, no, there actually are other black X-Men characters. You know what I mean?
You know who I would like to see brought into the comic world in a meaningful way is Spike.
Yes, that's a character
X-Men
that everybody keeps
Evolution,
sleeping on. Yes, that's a character I
Storm's
was gonna bring
nephew.
up. Yes, I like Spike. And then when we talk about black X Men characters, you have Prodigy, you have fucking Sync, you have fucking Darwin for crying out fucking loud, man. You have Cecilia Reyes, you have Angel, and you even have Sunspot, who's Afro Latino. Which, I mean, why they keep trying to make him go from lesbian Afro Latino, I don't know, but I digress. But anyway, the point is that there are black X Men characters. They've always been creating X Men characters, and they create new characters. In fact, I would argue, like, when we talk about the whole diversity thing in superheroes, X Men's the prime example of like diversity done right when it comes to superheroes. You know what I mean? They're always trying to create more characters. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like I just don't understand why some people feel the need to like change the race of characters in live action. It never makes sense to me. Hell, I fucking thought it was oh shit, hold on, I had a good point there and I just fucking lost it. God damn it. Because of my fucking rambling. Fuck, I'll remember it later because it was a good point. It was about, oh fuck, yeah, we think that sometimes when it comes to race bending, it goes one way. No, sometimes it goes the other way around. Like, for example, did you ever see the Spawn movie?
I actually am a pretty big defender of that movie.
No, I, lo-
Yes,
I love. Yeah,
I
I have no
understand
issue
where it
with
would
that
have
movie.
been better if it's an R-rated movie, but dude, John Leguizamo killed it as Violator.
Yo, hell, that wasn't even the person I was gonna bring up. It was actually Terry Fitzgerald, Terry, his best friend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he was
yeah,
supposed to
his
be
best
another
friend.
black dude, wasn't it?
Yeah, instead they made his character a white guy in the movie. But all I hear is crickets.
And
I hear crickets.
you know what though? I also think back then there weren't as many movies, and maybe people didn't know Spawn as well. Like they knew the art, but they so like I think maybe people just didn't know because
Right,
like you and I have both brought this up and complained, but White Forge,
dude. You gotta let that go.
I will
You
never
get
let it
you,
go. I
you
will.
gotta
I
you
will
gotta let that.
when I
God,
am
yeah,
dying
I'm sorry,
on
guys.
when
He's
I'm
got to shoot.
dying of cancer and my family is surrounding me and telling me how much they love me, instead of replying with "I love you too," I'm gonna say "fuck White Forge," and then it's just gonna be just a boop, and that's it. Johnny's out, and
Oh my
I'm never letting it go.
God, he's never gonna let go of the White Force and X from Wolverine and the X, but he's never gonna let that go. Hey, but
Oh,
you
it
know what? I don't
angers
blame
me
you.
so
Hey, I
much,
don't
dude.
blame you. I
Like
don't blame you, dude.
we we killed all of them and replaced their whole land with white people, and people are looking at this Native American character and like, hey, let's kill him and replace it with a white guy. Like, no,
Right.
we've done that enough already.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's for me with the race bending. That's when sometimes it gets kind of weird because I'm just kind of like sometimes I feel like it's an oh I feel like I get it. People are trying to make I guess they're trying to make corrections for the sake of DEI, but I feel like when you start doing the race bending, that's when you're overcorrecting. And plus, also the way I look at it like this: by race bending existing characters versus using the existing characters that exist that are black. I mean, using black as an example. What you don't realize is that you are actually sending a message that black original characters that were created, they're inferior to their white counterparts. So let's turn around and change their race so that way they can be superior. But that's not how that works.
And
You know,
here's a
you
funny
actually, yeah. Oh,
here.
hold on. Let me get this out real quick.
Go ahead, go
And
ahead.
it really does take away from the creators that took all this time to work on those characters because they felt like black characters were underrepresented. So they're like, you know what? Let's create black original characters so that way we have more representation in comic books. That's all I have to say.
And I will say two things because one, it can go wrong even if you're well intending. Going back to when Marvel's had three different young skating black characters, and every one of them was kind of the same as the other, but that can be fixed because as time went on, like the stuff I read from Night Thrasher, he wasn't riding a skateboard. He was just a dude who beat the crap out of bad guys, and I thought that was awesome. And
Yeah, I
so
was
not
gonna
every
say leave Night
character's
Thrasher alone.
and I will say not every character starts off great but can become great.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi was a little bit of a stereotype, but look at what he's
Yep.
become.
Yep.
um Brother Voodoo was problematic, but Doctor Voodoo's pretty badass.
Yep.
Um, and I will say this is because here's the big one: when um, when Neil Adams created John Stewart the Green Lantern, he was a
Mm-hmm.
generic angry black guy stereotype. It
Yep.
took
He went.
it took the voice work of Phil Lamar and the leadership of Bruce Timm to create the character we know today.
Yep. And
And
let's also not forget that they did the same thing with Black Lightning too.
right.
But yeah, yeah, I had to add that in there because I remembered that issue of when the Justice League tried to recruit Black Lightning for the to be a member, and Black Lightning basically told him, "I'm not joining you, jive turkeys." I was like, "Nigga, what the fuck? Who wrote this shit?" And not only that, but he didn't want to be on the team because he didn't want to be the token black guy on the team. But yeah, I digress, man.
But it also goes kind of back to what you were saying. Is like there's a lot of black characters out there, and I'll bet you some of them can be taken and cleaned up and made pretty kick ass by today's standards. You just, um, there was this one guy I spent about a good couple of hours watching his stuff. I probably should have followed him, but I think it was Blurred with a Blog or some shit like that. It was
Yeah,
just
Blur. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
and like
Yeah,
what I like about him is like he's pretty darn positive. Even characters that like other black people are like, oh, that character sucks because of this, this, and that. He's like, well, no, hold on, let's look at this. And like he was, a big defender of Night Thrasher, and
yep,
at one point, because I wanted to find this video he had done, because he had done one on Nubia that I really enjoyed, but he did a later one on Nubia. And when I kept trying to find it, it could only pop up the later one, not the earlier one I actually wanted to see. But
yeah. That one's gonna be hard to find.
yeah, man, like I think yeah, it's like what you're saying. Like, take some of these old characters, dust them off, and see if we can make them work again. And maybe it's not going to work, but back in the day, people weren't afraid to let a character fail.
Yeah, because I look at it like this: if they were able to do it with Black Lightning, then they can do it with any character. Because after Black Lightning's run in the '70s, he really didn't make a reoccurrence as far as like his own one-shot issue until like the late '90s when he had a one-shot, and that was actually a pretty good fucking book. You know,
You know what
so
I
that's why
just thought of?
I'm.
Like, because I was thinking of like newer, cool black characters, right? That are pretty original. And I'm like, I go back to like the early 90s. I'm like, what original characters have been made in the last 20 years that are pretty cool?
I can think of like I know Sync is pretty badass. You know,
Uh,
basically that dude. Yeah, he's an X-Men character. Essentially, when he's kind of similar to what's her face, Hope Summers, to where he can pretty much copy people's powers and shit like that. You also have Darwin. Like, dude, don't even get me started with Darwin.
I would go.
You, you,
I know
you and
that
I
they're a
both know.
little. I would say I know
Oh,
that they're a little repetitive, but like Signal and I would put Signal and Batwing are pretty good, but when they tried doing the Batgirl the way that they or Batwoman the way they did it in the show, I'm like, nah, you can get her out of here. But these two guys
yeah,
can stay.
yeah. Batwoman in the show, that was just cringe. Like how they did it, it was cringe, man.
When was Bronze
But
Tiger created? Is he an older one?
he, yeah, he's been around since like the late '70s, early '80s. Bronze Tiger's been
Really?
around for yeah, Bronze Tiger's been around for a while, dude.
He was
Yeah,
now
but
getting his due.
he originally he was a villain, but then he started becoming more of an anti-hero later on. Yeah, Bronze Tiger's fucking badass. Another character, Blue Marvel, bro.
Mm.
That's like another, yeah, that's like a prime example of a character that's created in 20 years. That's a fucking badass. I keep forgetting about Blue Marvel. Like that dude is like he's basically Marvel's Black Superman, and he's like pretty top tier as far as power and his feats and shit. He's up there with like Sentry and Thor. He's up there. In fact, he even one-shotted Ultimate Hulk from the Ultimate Universe. He literally one-shotted his ass with one uppercut to the fucking chin, and he was down. Because that Hulk was going around talking big shit, and then he just uppercutted his fucking ass, and he was just down. Yeah, and I think and I was able to read his one shot on digits. It was pretty. It was a pretty good one shot. Yeah, and I did like how like they did add how they did touch on some of the race stuff within the time because it was done in a tasteful way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it wasn't done in a way where it was like preachy and whatnot. It was done in a way of like this is what it was in the times. You know what I mean? That's just how it was. And let's be honest, like shit. I forgot what I was gonna say. Like let's be honest, you already knew if you were gonna do a superhero like that, you were gonna have to touch on that time period, especially with how old the character is. You would have had to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. And then shit, we didn't really touch on the gender bending characters, but then again, there's not much to say because usually with gender bending, that usually happens when it's like a
Oh,
multiverse type thing, if I'm not mistaken, right? Usually.
yeah, I want to address one thing because, like, on the picture you had sent me, I don't know if you used it as a thumbnail or anything, but it was like the two black Supermans, which for the longest time I didn't even realize they introduced the second one. I just kept thinking it was weird. Why does this character act so different than how he was?
Oh
And then it's
yeah.
like, and then later I realized, oh, this is a second guy. Okay. Um, but the chick in the middle, the Hispanic one, I actually have a problem with. I don't like her. I don't like the concept of her. I don't like
No,
the
no,
idea.
she's not Hispanic. She's actually no. That's supposed to be Clark Kent in Earth 11. Yeah, that's Clark Kent, Earth 11.
I thought she was
Well,
based on the actor because they made such a
no,
big deal.
that's a different one. That's a
Oh, that's
different
a whole
one.
different
That's
person.
yes,
Re-
she's actually supposed to be Superman. That one I sent you with the long hair. Yeah, that's Superman. That's supposed to be Superman in Earth 11, but it's Superwoman. Superwoman. All the characters in that universe are gender bent. So you
Okay.
have Superwoman, you have Batwoman, and then you have Wonder Man, and you have Wonder Lad, Super
What's
Lad. No, yeah,
what's
Wonder Lad,
Bruce's
and
real
then
name? What would
Bruce
be
Wayne.
Bruce's name then? Because
Oh, they just used
in
Helena Wayne.
that's gay because they it was Sylvester Kyle and Bryce Wayne in the metal the Aquaman one, the
Yeah,
Brown Batman. Yeah, it
yeah,
was Bryce Wayne and Sylvester Kyle, which I thought was cooler. I thought that they did a they put more work into coming up with the names.
yeah. I would have went with that one, but hey,
It,
who am I to say?
yeah.
And don't mind me right now. My girl right now is watching The Boys season 3, and she's watching the Hero Gasm episode.
Mm.
Which, by the way, is one of, in my opinion, not only the most raunchiest episode, but it was the funniest fucking episode ever. It's yeah, my girl is just like right now. She's just kind of like, what the fuck am I watching right now?
Uh, was
Yeah,
that
but
the episode inspired by the whole Ant-Man crawling up Thanos' butt meme?
no, that episode, no, that was the first episode of season 3. No,
Okay.
this one is the one. This is the episode with the giant orgy.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm with you now.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's gonna be scarred for life after this one. Uh-oh. No. Not, oh, fuck, no. You don't want to know what part it's coming up. All you need to know is the part when, sorry, just look at our girl's face right now. It's priceless. Anyway,
Uh,
back to what we're talking about. But yeah, man, yeah, it was the gender bent, yeah, that's the
which
gender bent universe.
and see that doesn't bother me, especially because it's a whole universe and they're doing a thing, and it's not the primary anything. Like when like as a for instance, when Pride Month comes around, they always want to make all these issues focusing on this gay person, that gay person. I'm like, why don't you just do an otherworld thing instead of making these people permanently gay that probably shouldn't be? Maybe just do an alternate universe version, tell one isolated story and be done with it. People get their little thing that they want, and it's not gonna affect any because there's a lot of fans that already have a lot of characters that they identify with, and when you take it from one group of people who identify with it in an effort to give it to somebody else, it's not always beloved. Um,
Agreed.
versus you could make a gay Batman in an alternate universe that wouldn't bother me in the slightest because you're doing a
I
one-off
wouldn't give a
thing.
fuck.
It's whatever. But if you're trying to make main Batman gay, it's like, come on, dude. Batman's
Yeah, that's an
barely,
issue.
yeah, like Batman is so hetero that he routinely breaks his code to get poon. Like,
Facts. Like, how many times has he broken his code to freaking smash Talia al Ghul and Catwoman?
yeah, villains, and he's constantly banging villains. Or if you're fucking Bruce Timm, that's a
He's
whole other.
smashing Wonder Woman. Yeah, he's trying to smash Wonder Woman.
Well, I was more going with because he's the one responsible for the Batgirl romance, which I never cared for.
Oh my god, no! What the dude? That shit always creepy. That shit always weirded me out. Like I'm like, why are you fucking your foster son's ex girlfriend? That is just fucking weird, bro.
Oh, dude, I've always thought it was weird. I've always hated it. But here's the thing: like everybody threw such a huge fit when they had that as the opening story in the Killing Joke. And my thing is like, yeah, I don't like it either. And when I first saw Batman with Batgirl, I threw an absolute fit in the
Yeah,
'90s when it first happened. It's like, dude, how are you 20 years late to the program?
yeah, like even yeah, because it took me a second to figure that shit out. You know, like it took like when I first saw it, I had to watch it like the third time to figure that out. You know, I was like, bro, what the fuck? It was crazy. But I'll say with this when it comes to the what you call it shit the gender bending, it
Hmm.
does kind of annoy me. The only time I really get annoyed with that shit is let's say if we're taking a character that no one's ever heard of, right, and you're bringing them to live action, right,
Right.
and rather than kind of be true to the source material, you turn around and you switch their gender for whatever fucking reason, and it just doesn't make any fucking sense. You know what I'm saying?
It did not bother me when they did that with Flag Smasher.
Flag Smasher. I didn't even give a fuck for Flag Smasher, but even then, that's still kind of what the fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
It,
that
it
was the
is kind
one
of
I didn't give a damn about because like I had never seen the Flag Smasher comic till about 3 months after I saw that. My buddy had got some comics. He's like, "What do you think about these?" And I'm going through them. I'm like, "Wait a minute!" And I look it up. I'm like, "Dude, this is the first appearance of Flag Smasher." And like, but that's when I first saw him in the comics. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know it was a dude." Like, so I didn't that one didn't bother me, but I think you're right. Just because one time it was okay, it doesn't mean it's okay every time they do it. It's a case by case situation, and in most
yeah,
cases, they're making bad calls.
yeah. Because I know right now they've done a couple gender swaps on the boys. You know, and sometimes, and I just say this, I think sometimes it works, and then other times it's like, no, what the fuck? Like it doesn't work. You know, like the Stormfront one, that was one of the ones I was kind of against it at first, but as I kind of started watching it some more, I'm like, okay, you know what? It works in the sense of the fact that they're still taking the source, they're still kind of basing it true to the source material, but you know, they're still telling their own story. You know, so it's like some of the liberties they take with the boys, it doesn't bug me too much. So at the end of the day, it doesn't take away from the show. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, like and even then, what's her face? Miss Newman, the Senator Newman is supposed to be a dude, and then the character Elizabeth Shue played was supposed to be a dude. But you know what? It works, especially for how they're using Homelander's motivation to kind of paint a picture of how he is in this universe. I'm like, okay, you know what? Never mind. It works. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, I'm lucky
Like,
enough that I've never read a single one of those comics. So, like, that's one thing I actually enjoy about a comic book universe I know nothing about is I don't get hung up on anything. I
yeah,
just get to roll with it, and it's so nice and freeing to have that. Um, that
yeah,
because like most of the time I'm not overly informed, but I'm fairly informed, and so it's like, oh, this is wrong, that's not, no, no, and it like it aggravates me because this that, and the other thing. But with the boys, I just get to go with it. So it's like, but also
yeah,
I think the boys tend to have the people running it kind of have a better idea of what the people really want, and
yeah,
they seem to avoid the echo chamber trap.
yeah.
So
And
it's like
honestly, even people. Oh, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, so like if they go outside and do something a little different, I feel like they're probably not doing it for the sake of being pandering. They're probably doing it for the sake of the story,
Yeah, and even
and
then,
that's the
honestly,
difference.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and even then, honestly, I know some people that have read the fuck out of the comic book that still love the fucking show. You know, they don't even give a fuck that it deviates too far from the fucking source material. It's still a good show. Sorry, it was just this one part where old dude teleported, and every time he teleports, they lose their clothes. Like he loses his clothes, and he teleported his girlfriend out too, and now she ain't got no clothes on.
But
Yeah, it's kind of
Walking Dead's another one of those ones that's pretty different from the comics, and people just let it slide. You know,
yeah.
uh,
And to be fair, I fell off of Walking Dead after season two. I tried getting into it after season two, and I couldn't keep up with it. I just gave up.
I think I made it to 6 or 7. There came a point where like it was at the point where a lot of the people who'd been there from the early on were kind of wanting to move on to do other stuff. And so they were kind of writing some people out and trying to bring some new people in, which I understand. But the problem is like, to me, they killed all the wrong people. All the people
Yeah,
I'm here rooting for, wanting to see, that's who they killed off. It's like if you're watching Game of Thrones and they just killed off every Stark but one. It's like, why am I fucking watching?
yeah, it's
You know,
fucking crazy.
I gotta have somebody to root for. I think that was the problem with Fear the Walking Dead, the first season or two. You're not rooting for
Yeah,
any of these people. You hate all of them. They're all terrible people. You want all of them to die. And it's like if I'm not rooting for somebody to survive, why am I watching this?
yeah, that's freaking crazy, man.
But I will say
Yeah,
though, I do hate that Hispanic Kryptonian character that they created for that show, and the reason I hate it is I've often had a problem with like the whole gender bending thing when it comes to Kryptonians because the reason race exists on our planet is because of relation to the sun and the body's development of melanin over many generations.
wait,
And
which
that
Hispanic Kryptonian again? I got lost for a second. Sorry.
um, it was the girl Kryptonian that I think was introduced in the Krypton show. And
I didn't watch too much of Krypton, but I got you.
I didn't watch it, but like because they made a huge deal about it, and I'm going to tell you why it bothered me here in a second. Um, but the whole thing is melanin on Earth is created because of UV light from our white sun. I know it looks yellow to us, but if you get outside of the atmosphere, it's like a
It's
white
white.
yellow. Um,
Yeah,
but all that stuff comes through, and that's what develops certain people with darker skin, certain people with lighter skin. If you're on a red sun planet, it has very little UV. So how is anybody on that planet developing a tan? So
right.
the way their skin color varies has to be different than the way ours does. So like right away, I'm like, the idea of making these people so multiracial is kind of weird because there's an earlier one where there's a group of people who were Kryptonians, but like moved away to a separate planet or whatever, and they evolved differently, and they actually have red skin. They have a slightly
Right.
reddish hue to them. And I'm like, that makes more friggin' sense. Like, that makes way more sense that they would develop a red hue or a yellow hue. Like, they wouldn't have skin that looks like our skin for the most part because the way ours developed and theirs would have been different. So like right away I already have an issue, but whatever, you put a black guy in there, fine, fuck it. Hispanic, however, is a very interesting thing because it only exists as a result of genocide.
Right.
People came over, took over the Native Americans, they interbred after generations and generations and generations. The interbreds are what were left, and Hispanic is essentially a hybrid race between Spaniards, conquering Spaniards and Native American people and probably other races. And then, of course, when you get into certain islands, in the Caribbean, now it becomes the black slave laborers with the local populace, and that creates, Afro. Latin thing. But for the most part,
Yeah,
I say that because it's a hybrid race, and it's like, why do we need to go to another planet, create brand new natives to conquer and kill, and just so that we can have our representation there? It's like, hey, maybe this is like, I'm a big, when it comes to representation, I'm a big believer in get in where you fit in. Do
yeah,
Hispanics really fit in on kryptonite? Like, is that really where we belong? Shouldn't Hispanic be a very earthbound thing? Because, you know, in order for it to have been created, it has to be a hybrid race between two groups of people, oftentimes a result of friggin' genocide. And it's like, hey, man, let's not genocide every planet just to give us some representation. Like, get in where you fit in.
yeah.
And the thing that really pissed me off about this, that kind of just like irked me, is like when they did it, they were making such a big deal. The first ever Hispanic Kryptonian. Oh my God, the first ever Hispanic Kryptonian, earth breaking. But I'm like, now wait a minute. Didn't a man by the name of George Perez voice Superman during Justice League Unlimited? Wouldn't that be
No,
the
that was
first
George Newbern. No, that was George Newbern.
George Hubert? What am I thinking of
George
George
Newbern.
Perez? Okay.
No, George. You're probably thinking of one of the comic book creators because there is a guy named George Perez that was one of the writers for the comic books. He recently passed away.
Oh, I might be getting that confused, but but then the other thing,
Yeah.
the character we were talking about earlier, to me, that's the first Hispanic Kryptonian. I'm like,
Oh yeah. No facts. Facts.
I'm
But
like
then
that.
again, good. I'm sorry.
Well, but also, he's on Earth, which is the only place that Hispanic can be. And it's like, if you want to
Yeah.
put a Hispanic person in the thing, whatever. But I'm like, this isn't the thing to build up. Like Hispanic and Kryptonian, they don't exist together. They can't. It's
Yeah, and just kind of like when people bigged up what was it, Miles as the first Latino Spider-Man. It's kind of like y'all do know you do know Miguel O'Hara was a thing, right? Yeah, y'all do know he pretty much predates Miles Morales. Not only that, he's just more badass than Miles Morales. I fucking said it. I fucking said it.
Well, I mean, here's a funny thing about me. Like, if you were to ask me like my top five list, a lot of them don't make sense. Because if you ask me my top five Marvel guys, I'm gonna put Spider-Man on the top of the list. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, top of the list.
Yeah,
But
same.
if you were to ask me who my favorite Spider-Man is, suddenly it's Miguel, and that doesn't
Yeah,
make
same.
sense.
Yeah,
Just like
same.
on my top five Marvel characters, number three is War Machine. All right, so it's like
Yeah,
Spider-Man, Strange, War Machine. But if you were to ask me who my top five black characters are, you would think War Machine would suddenly scooch up to number one, right? But it's
wrong.
actually Storm is number one with
Yeah,
and it's like he's still number three for me.
yeah. No, yeah, I know. Everybody's got a weird list,
And
man. I
and
know a
so it's
lot of people that got weird lists.
And so, yeah, a lot of it just doesn't make sense. But for me, my favorite Spider-Man is Miguel, and he was my favorite Spider-Man before I found out he was half Irish, half Hispanic, the way I am. I didn't even know that.
He was
That
my
that
favorite Spider-Man ever since the first issue of Spider-Man 2099 after I read that shit. Like, that origin story was what the hell,
I actually
you know?
started on issue 5 when I was a kid. I saw it, and I didn't base it on issue numbers or whatever. I was just like, "This is a cool fucking cover, Dad. Can you get this for me?" And he's like, "Yeah."
That was,
And,
that was the only
and
reason I got it too, was because of the cover. In
yeah,
fact,
that's why, like, some people, they feel weird about buying a comic and never reading it. I'm like, dude, you're buying art. You're buying a
yeah,
6x9 piece of art. You know what I mean? If you
yeah,
never read it, that's cool. Because there are certain comics in my collection I have zero intention of ever reading. I bought them because
yeah,
they look cool.
yeah. Yeah, and I almost ended up buying the variant cover for Ultimate Black Panther issue 4, just because that variant cover was fucking badass. Yeah, I almost ended up buying it, but I was like, I'll hold off on it.
There's a couple comics I've actually bought two of because, like, I was like going on like through a line, and I'm like, I really just want the normal regular cover, but I'm like, oh, this cover's really friggin' cool, but it'll
Yeah.
it'll throw off the dynamic of normal cover, variant, normal, and I'm like, just buy two.
Yeah.
Of course, I was making better money back then, so I could just I was making better money, and I was living like a 4-minute drive from the comic book store from Dragon's Lair. I was up the street from it, so it was very convenient to just throw money at the comic book store.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's funny how that works sometimes, huh? And then I think my girlfriend is also understanding what I was talking about with Homelander. Or yeah, sorry, I'm off topic because like I said, my girl's watching the boys, but I think she's understanding what I've been saying about Homelander for the longest. Is that with Homelander, you really shouldn't be afraid of that guy because you put him against any other superhero like Omni Man or Superman, he's not gonna win because of the simple fact that all he is a bully. He can't fight. He's not as strong as he thinks he is. He would get outclassed very, very, very badly. Very badly. Like everybody compares Homelander to Superman. I'm like, Homelander only has like maybe like a tenth of Superman's actual abilities. Literally,
Yeah,
like a tenth.
and I would also say too, like certain times it's a difficult thing to compare this to that because I feel like there are power scales, and I feel like DC just operates at a higher power scale overall,
Yep.
and
And
that's just how it is. Just like Dragon Ball Z, they just operate on like the highest power scale possible. And so it's like this person versus that person, like it's never gonna be quite that fair because it's just like the world they exist in, the ability to generate power is that much, more. And so
yeah, and
it becomes difficult to do some of that stuff. And I sometimes feel like you almost have to scale certain characters down to make it fair, or scale certain characters up to make fair comparisons. But yeah, I think because it's like Superman, Omni Man, and Homelander are the ones everybody likes to talk about. But I'm like, dude, Superman's fucking annihilating.
yeah, and
You know?
Omni Man is annihilating the fuck out of Homelander, like
Right.
badly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, Omni Man would skull fuck Homelander. Sorry,
Now Homelander versus All Might. Where's All Might fit in all that?
I have actually, you know what? I haven't quite figured it out, but here's one point of contention when I say that where Homelander falls short is the fact that he can't fly and pick up heavy objects because he needs the center of gravity in order to pick up something like a plane or a truck. He wouldn't be able to fly, pick up a truck, and toss it at somebody.
Hmm.
You know, so that's where Homelander takes an L. However, fucking All Might is just that dude is like on a whole, like on just what the fuck. But in all honesty, I'd probably still give the fight to Homelander just for the simple fact that I don't know how durable All Might is when it comes to Homelander's heat vision.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that part would be a game changer.
You know the guy who or the guy who plays Dr. Cox on Scrubs voices the Atom on Justice League Unlimited?
Are you shitting me?
I just found that out, dude.
Oh wow. Then
Like
again,
I
I know that dude has dabbled into freaking voice acting, but wow, I did not know that.
because I know he's been on like an episode of Boondocks. I forget who he was, and he's
Yeah,
he he's done. He was on one of the Spider-Mans, but I don't think he was anything important. But yeah, he was the Atom because like I was looking up the cast of Justice League Unlimited, and I saw Dr. Cox. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here?
that's crazy. I'm gonna have to watch that again. That's insane, man.
That's one of those series I've watched so many times that I actually have to give myself a long break before I watch it again
Yeah,
because
same.
I'll burn that stuff out. And the hard one too is my son. He loves Avatar and Korra, and so
Yeah.
I'm trying to leave those shows alone, and I can't because every time he comes over, that's his comfort show.
Oh, dude, that's what's up.
And
Yeah,
it's great, especially because I'm the one who got him into it. Like when the pandemic was happening, and they released it on Netflix. I was like, let's just see if he wants to watch it with us, just a couple episodes. If he doesn't get into it, that's cool. He got super into it. He thought it was awesome, and when he heard about Korra, he's like, I can't wait. And Korra hadn't been released yet, and they hadn't announced that it was going to be released yet. So I,
really.
yes, like on Netflix, and
Mm,
because when it first happened, it was just Avatar. And so I went out and bought the DVDs for him and sent them to him so that he could watch it. And then it was like a month later that it dropped on Netflix. I don't feel
nice.
bad. I don't feel bad about the purchase. I don't feel bad about, I could have just waited and saved $40. And the reason is Netflix is still the censored version. The DVD is the real version, the real ending.
Yep.
And so I'm
Yep.
glad my son got to see the real ending first. I'll pay $40 and go out of my way to make sure he got to see the real ending first. And it's like, dude, I understand that was 10 years ago. Things were different. It's like, this is Netflix. Put the real ending on. What are we doing?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And, fuck what I was gonna say. But yeah, other than that, so we already established, the tokenization, what was it, gender bending, race bending. We already kind of hit kind of our points of contention with the race bending stuff, which I mean for the most part I kind of I'm kind of glad we're on agreement with that one too, because I mean at
Yeah,
the end
just
of the day
my
I
thing is
just
slow down on it. Like y'all are doing too
yes
much. Limit it,
it,
think about it, make sure it's right. Talk, to some people from different thises and that's. Come up with a good story first and foremost. But it's like I'm never going to be the guy who says no, don't do that, blah blah blah. But I am going to be the guy who says think about whether it's a good idea to do it with this specific character.
yeah, because I have no issue with like if you do a tokenized version of a character. I don't really see an issue with it as long as it's got like a solid backstory, and you have different elements that set them apart from their counterparts. Hey, I got no issue with it. Case in point, Robbie Reyes. Even though he shares the title of Ghost Rider with Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, overall, fundamentally, he's completely different from the two. It's a completely different demon. It's a completely different like dark entity. Not so much. Well, I guess you can say demon that he gets his abilities from. He uses a completely different vehicle. You know what I mean? And his
Yes.
overall design is completely different from Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch. So I mean, even then, still he still struggles with like the things that happened to his father and how his family ties into the whole elements of said demon that he's corrupted by. So again, it's still the same character in name, but there are different elements that set them apart.
And something you just said reminded me of something. Just the fact of bringing up Robbie Reyes, because like I saw something recently.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a black Facebook group or whatever, and they were pretty upset over the haircut of the new Star Wars guy because it's that same haircut that they give to every single black guy.
Oh my god, not the fucking Killmonger look. I hate that fucking haircut.
And here's the thing, because I actually have a very similar feeling when it about that, but when it comes to Hispanic names for characters, because for a long time, every time they created a new Hispanic character, they gave them a strong Hispanic name.
Yep.
It was Jaime Reyes, Hernan Guerrera, and
Paco
just
Ramon.
right. Everything was just, and it was like, yeah, dude, I have Hispanic friends named Jose and Ignacio. I also have Hispanic friends named James and Dan. Some of these people need to have regular names. So Robbie Reyes having a regular name, Jessica Cruz just having an Americanized name. It's like that
Man,
feels more natural, a more natural spreading of names that are more Americanized. Because a lot of times when people come to America from foreigners, they want their kids from foreign places. They want their kids to fit in. So
right.
sometimes they'll give them traditional names from where they're from, but other times they'll give them American names. Um,
Yep. And that's
and
what
it's
I'm saying.
funny.
If you re-
I
that's what I
work
say.
with a
If you
guy
really
who
want to
gave
do,
himself an American name. He had his real name is like Rasha Forte, and he's like, just call me Alan.
Yeah, I need some people like that. That's what I'm saying. If you really want to turn around and be about quote unquote representation, how about being able to identify with the masses? Because let's be honest, when you have people's parents that are immigrants and they come to this country, their parents are going to turn around and give them an American name. Let's just be honest about that. You know what I mean? But don't make it that obvious that you're trying to to pander to just one demographic of audience. You know what I mean? And
Right. And
that's kind of the issue I have when it comes to when race bending gets done. Is that race bending and gender bending is that, and even sometimes with tokenization, it's just the pandering. Like, Who are you pandering to? Like, is this said group you're pandering to? Are they even asking for this? Are they even demanding this version of that character? Because if no one is asking for it, why even do it? You know what I mean?
or or why do it for three people on Twitter?
Exactly.
Why do you need to make Robin gay to appease three people on Twitter?
Oh no, wait, no, Johnny, no, he's not gay. He's
Oh, he's
I'm
bi.
using air, no, no, I'm using air quotes. He's bisexual.
Yeah.
Because let's be
I
honest,
still can't get over it.
yeah, because let's be honest, that's what DC does when they take characters and they say that they're gay. They're not going to outright say, "Oh, we made the character gay." No, we made the character bisexual. When in all actuality, it tells otherwise that you're taking a well-established character that has been established for over 20 something fucking years, almost 30 years, and then you say, you know what, let's change his sexual orientation, just like you
And
did
the,
with Iceman, who had been around for like what, over 50 years, and out of nowhere, okay, let's change his sexual orientation just to fucking do it. Versus, hey, how about we just create this new character that's taking up the role of Robin, and he just happens to be gay. Nothing wrong with that. But what pisses people off is when you take characters that have been established for so long and these readers have already, grown to love the character, you know? And then you turn around and you just you change the character's sexual orientation for what? For clicks and views. And then top it off, he was still dating Stephanie Brown at the fucking time when they did that shit.
and that was the thing that bugged the crap. Because, like, all right, let me tell you about my journey with this a little bit. All right, so I was reading the Batman comics, and in it opens up. Everybody's talking about how emotional Batman is because Robin had just died. Because Red Robin just died.
Yep.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I'm like, what? And so
I remember that book.
I go out and I buy the comic where he died. I'm like, oh man, and like I don't know the twist at the end. I'm just going for it. I'm reading. It gets to the point where he sacrifices himself to save everybody. And like, dude, I kid you not, I had to back away from my comic at my desk because like tears were rolling down and I didn't want to ruin my friggin' comic with water droplets, right? So I back up, I wipe my face. I'm like, damn, dude, such a badass, whatever. I turn the page, he's not even dead. He was,
Yeah.
zapped away at the last minute or whatever. But the thing is, when he came back, the first first thing he did was go get some pussy. That was the first fucking thing he did. He ran
Right.
straight to Stephanie Brown's house. Was like, babe, I'm
Yes, that's
back.
exactly what he did. I remember that.
And I'm like, dude, this man is madly in love with this woman. How is he supposed to suddenly be bi? It's like if you want to find a bi character, like make a new one, find one where it makes more sense. One that I think would make sense that might piss people off, but might also work. Guy Gardner. Maybe the reason he has such a shitty attitude is because he's hiding something.
I'm not gonna touch that, man. I'm gonna leave Guy Gardner alone
And
on that one.
and that wasn't my
But
idea either, because like
oh, hold on.
me and my
I
comic book
want.
salesman were talking, and that was his idea. But go ahead.
Wow, it's fucking, no, I was gonna add on to the whole thing about Robin being quote unquote bisexual. It's not the fact that he was dating Stephanie Brown. It's the fact that he started dating a dude that was his best friend, like his childhood best friend.
Right.
But that just, yeah, that right there is just that icing on the cake.
And my thing is like one of my childhood best friends is also gay, and I feel like if
Yeah.
I were to suddenly change teams, that's probably not the one I'm going with.
Yeah, and just so we're fucking clear, if anybody's listening to this, just so we're fucking clear, I ain't got nothing against anybody that is gay or bisexual or trans or anything like that. I have nothing against anybody in the LGBT. Like, to be 100% honest, I fucking love the LGBT community. I got a lot of good friends in that community. Hell, even myself. I mean, like I said, who gives a flying fuck what y'all think? Because at the end of the day, I support the LGBT community. I got nothing. I got nothing against anybody in the community. I have no smoke against anybody in that community. We're talking about it from a creative standpoint, as far as like if you were writing a comic book, if you were creating a character, and you're writing a story. We're talking about writing a cohesive story and keeping it cohesive with the actual plot of the story and the actual character development of the characters and people that have followed these characters for decades, and then
And
just making these ridiculous changes that flip it on people's heads, you know? And
and it's like
then
you said in regards to the friggin' character, because you can do this stuff, but if
yeah,
it doesn't match the character's personality, like I'll give you the perfect example of something that like has nothing to do with gay or any of that stuff. Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, in the beginning they have those cutaways, action scenes or
yeah,
whatever, and it's like Nightcrawler is missing, so of course that's Wolverine's buddy. That's one of his closest friends.
yeah,
Wolverine's upset or whatever, they're doing whatever, but like Captain America says something, and then Wolverine like says something to him in a way you would expect Wolverine to say things. The problem is Wolverine would never talk that way to Captain America.
yeah,
Wolverine will
like
talk that way to Cyclops, to this person, to he respects Captain America, and he wouldn't speak to that man that way.
right. Even I
And
was gonna be
so
like, yeah,
it has to match the character's thing across the board. That was a fun game, great game. I friggin' loved it. I'll probably play it again one more time before I die. And then I love
yeah,
the I love the game, but that one part of the game really niffed me. I was like, Wolverine wouldn't talk to him that way. That's
yeah,
out of character. And
yeah. That's a little
if
weird.
it's out of character, it's out of character, man. And it doesn't matter what it's about and stuff like that. And just like there's stuff that is in character, like when they really full on made Harley Quinn bisexual, it's like, yeah, yeah, going back to the cartoon, there's implications there.
Right. Yeah, I was even gonna say, yeah, even in the cartoon they hinted that shit. Actually, no, it was kind of obvious. But then again, some people don't know how to read between the lines of shit. Like, even I knew when I was watching as a kid, I'm like, okay, so Poison Ivy's her girlfriend, you know? That didn't take me long to figure that shit the fuck out. Like, what the fuck, man? That's why I think some people, when they make a big deal about, I think in some cases, when some people make a big deal about characters changing their sexual orientation, I do think it's kind of weird, especially when it's already like front and center and it's like that fucking obvious. And the fact that you couldn't see it. Case in point, another perfect example, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, it's kind of obvious she's bisexual.
And see, I actually kind of had a problem with the way they did it because I feel like I think Wonder Woman is the perfect allegory to make heterosexuals understand homosexuality. You're on an
Yep,
island. You are timeless. You live thousands and thousands of years, and
yep,
it's just you and other dudes. And it's like, think about that Rick and Morty episode where that guy gets stuck in that magic land, and he's doing that play, and he's like, "Now I will hump this rock. Now I
yep,
will hump this tree." Like, that's teenage boys. You're gonna put your penis in things. And when there's an island of nothing but men, and all these men are in relationships with one another, and this is totally normal, you're really going to tell me when you're at the height of your teenage fury, you're not going to poke a dude? Like, get out of here, man. It's normal. You don't know any different. You've never seen a woman. You're horny. You have hormones. This person's ready. You're going to do that.
yeah. That's the one I'm
But
kind of like when somebody says, and just for the record, anybody try to say no, they wouldn't stop the fucking cap. You know damn well if you were raised around nothing but dudes, and you were on an island with nothing but dudes, you would. So stop the fucking cap.
and if that was normal, especially because you're
Right.
raised that that's normal. Now then, if a
Exactly.
but a beautiful woman washes up on shore, now you see a beautiful woman for the first time, and suddenly you're like, oh, I want that. And me as a heterosexual man, I'm like, I'm on this island, all dudes. I'm poking dudes. A couple of them are probably
It
going to
is what
poke
it
me.
is.
That's going to happen. But the moment a woman washes up and I realize that's an option, I don't know if I'm going back to dudes. Like as a
Right.
natural born heterosexual, I'm think I'm going to be like, oh, women, you know what? I need to leave this island. I need to go help men, save the world and stuff. And I need to be where all the women are. And
Right.
I don't see myself going back. And so I feel like it's such a good allegory that I think like, yes, she's I feel like the reason her being bisexual doesn't always work is think about those guys who they have families, they have a wife, they have kids, they do all this stuff, and then years later they leave the wife and are like, actually, I was gay the whole time. I was just trying to be what society wanted me to be, etc., etc. And that person
Like,
never goes back to being heterosexual. He is just strictly gay the rest of his life. Do you still call that man bisexual? And
right.
and so
That's a good point.
I feel like Wonder Woman is such a great allegory to get people who don't understand to understand that I'm like, yes, she was with women, of course, naturally, but I feel like once she has the option for men, that her natural, predication is going to be towards men. And so I feel like when they did that, it's like, yes, it works. All women, island, Amazon's cool. But if you dig it down a little deeper, I'm like, you're kind of uprooting that allegory. And I think that allegory it makes Wonder Woman better. So when they made her bisexual, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I understand why they did it and where it came from, but I was like, I really just felt that the allegory worked better. That once she sees Dick, she's like, that's what I want the rest of my life, right there.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, man. I can't even debate that. Like, I can't even combat that. You're that's pretty spot on. But yeah,
But I also
but
feel too like there's gonna be a lot because like if you're a guy who's been with guys and then suddenly you're all women, I think like when you're in the normal world that we're in, everything's like you have to be extra dude and extra gruff, and like you almost don't get to how you were talking about men's health earlier. Some of the problem is like we don't get to talk to each other sensitively because like um as a for instance, I saw this thing online. People wanted to make the Winter Soldier and Falcon gay for each other. Why? Because they had a healthy relationship with one another, the kind of friendship and relationship that men are supposed to be able to have with one another. But the moment
yeah,
somebody has that kind of relationship, what do? You call them gay, and it
yeah, it's kind
and
of
it's
fucking
yeah, it's not good. It's not a great look, and I feel like that's part of the problem. Is like if you can't if I have a healthy relationship where we're open about my emotions with another friend of mine, we get called gay, and it's like, well, what the shit, dude? This you're telling me to do this, but the moment I do it, you tell me I'm suddenly something else, and I feel like that's not always healthy.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
and
It's like
so
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
yeah,
Yeah, I get it, man. You're not telling me nothing new. Trust me, I get it 100%.
and
But
it's like, yeah, just let us be friends, let us be. But like my thing is if you're a guy who came from a world where it's all men and there's a lot of intimacy, you're not going to have intimacy holdups. So
yeah,
you're not going to be afraid to hug your guy friend. You're not going to be afraid to hold him while he cries or to cry on his shoulder. So I do feel like some of what a man would do would still come across as somewhat effeminate or bisexual or gay or whatever. But it's so I definitely see where Wonder Woman is still going to have a lot of that because she's not afraid to be close and intimate with another woman, and she's not afraid of what other people are going to say about that. And so I
yep,
definitely think she's still going to walk around with hints of bisexuality without necessarily being full on bisexual. Because I really do think most standard versions of Wonder Woman, she really likes guys. She likes She's with
Yeah.
Superman in some versions. She's with Batman in other versions.
Only
She's,
in some
you know,
versions.
she's with Steve Trevor in most
Trevor.
versions.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
So
that's just how the cookie crumbles, man. Just really just yeah. I don't even disagree with any of that, man. Like it just is what it is, man.
oh, but yeah. Oh, but I do think I kind of missed a point earlier when we were talking about like the Hispanic names, and it's like how they kind of get it. Their back to the that haircut is this like there's a big thing in media, people talking about black people hairstyles and how unique they are and blah blah blah. And basically, sometimes like I guess black people would get made fun of because they had fros because fros were 70s and that's old and blah blah blah. And if your hair's this way or that way, and certain hairstyles maybe get poked fun at from outside cultures who don't understand it. And so you're like, no, 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 we need to make it understood that black hair is different, and that there's a culture around black hair. If you've ever been to a black barbershop, you kind of get it.
Yep.
Uh,
There's,
and
there's there's more than one different haircut, and I'm telling you right now, there like I think I might have sent you a video on that. It was a meme. It was a meme video where it talks about the different haircuts, and it was like what was it? It was like fade, fro, cornrows, locks, all these different.
waves.
Once upon a time, yeah, waves. All these haircuts all lived in harmony until the Killmonger came.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's pretty. That describes it in
it's
a nutshell.
yeah, like Harry Osborn can have waves, but another black character can't. Like, are you kidding me? If anybody
Right,
should have them,
right. Like, hey, let's be honest, Peter. Let's be honest. Harry Osborn's wave game is something else. I'm just gonna be honest. His wave game is just on a whole nother level.
speaking of which, one of the
Like,
guys I work with, he just has natural waves. He don't got to do nothing to make it. He don't got to put the do rag. He don't got to do the comb thing every day. Because I looked at him one day, I'm like, man, you must work hard to do that. He goes, nope, it just grows like that. I was like, damn.
hey, yeah. Some people can do it. Some people can't. I hate the motherfuckers that can actually grow waves naturally. I hate those motherfuckers.
And but yeah, because of like hanging around black people enough, like I learned about what waves meant in the community. I remember one time this chick is like, I'm sitting there and these two girls are talking to each other, and she's talking about this guy walking by, and she goes, ooh, and look at those waves. And like she was so impressed by it. I was like, okay, that's pretty important to this community. All right. And so for me, if I'm going to make a
It's
character, I'm probably going to give him waves. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to give him a fade, or those are going to be my main two hairstyles, with like the mini afro being the one after that. And
yeah, the
all those
waves
other
too.
hairstyles coming later. And like, whatever happened to like the guys who cut zigzags and shit into their hair? It's like, why don't
Man,
you
don't
just make a
we not touching
character?
that.
Just make a
Man, I ain't
character with
doing
a
all that.
simple zigzag.
Nope, nope, nope,
Make him a
nope,
douchey character. That way it fits.
nope, nope. If I wanted to make a character with some freaking badass waves or a weird ass cut, I'll just make cool. I'll just make his hair look like Cool Bora. Sorry, I would just do Cool Bora. Since y'all motherfuckers want to talk about waves and shit, I just turn around and do the pompadour haircut and make him look like Cool Bora. It's bad enough. There's already one. There's pretty much. I'll give him the Blake Griffin and call it a day. Hey, get
Uh,
down. Sorry, talking to my dog. Get down. I'm trying to get a head start on my gunpla right now because I'm about to start building the Wing Strike Freedom
right.
well Strike Freedom Gundam, and that's gonna freaking take a while. Why did I say Wing Strike Freedom? No, you know what? I know why I said Wing Strike Freedom because I'm thinking about getting Gundam Breaker 4, and that's gonna be one of my first custom gunplas in that game.
Hmm.
It's a long story behind that, but yeah. That being said, I mean, I'm probably gonna wrap it up right now, man.
Yeah, I think we beat this horse pretty well to death.
Yeah, because I think for the most part, people get the fucking point, you know. Because like I said, I don't think all because like I've been saying, all versions of tokenization aren't bad, but they're not all good. Just like when it comes to race swapping, it's not necessarily for the most part. It takes away from other characters. flow existing characters, but at the same time, it doesn't. And there's
And
one
then
thing I did
there's
need to clear up. I did need to clear up one thing real quick, and I needed your opinion on this. When it came down to the two different Black Supermen, because there's two different. You remember there's two different ones. There's Calvin Ellis from Earth 23, and then there's Balrog from Earth 2. Just so we're clear, there is a fundamental difference between the two. One of
and
them
what's
is born. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say what's funny is I started off very much as an Obama supporter, but by the end I felt like his presidency didn't do a fraction of what it promised to do. And I kind of went the other way with it where I was just like, dude, you let us down, man. And so I'm not a big Obama supporter, but I still like the Superman based on Obama. Like I like that because I think that's the Earth 23 version, right?
Yep.
He was the
Mm-hmm.
first. I liked him.
Yep.
He's the one I read in the comics or whatever. And when this other one started getting introduced, I was like, "Who the are you?" And it's like, why do
So,
we have? So like, yeah, tell me more about him.
so the one from that universe, he left Krypton the same time Superman did, but he was in a Kryptonian pod that was found later. He stays with Martha and Jonathan Kent, and he was in the basement because he had agoraphobia at the time. So he didn't necessarily. So he wears the House of L, but in reality, he's actually the son of General Zod in that universe. But General Zod is pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, he's probably dead in that universe. They haven't really said, but he takes up the mantle of Superman because in the first issue of Earth 2 Superman, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman get killed by Darkseid.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a book I'd recommend reading. If you've never read Earth 2, check it out. It's not a bad read, and that's also the reason behind Alan Scott Green Lantern being gay, because in that universe he was gay.
right. And of all the ones to make gay, I feel like that was probably the better one because the person that he ended up being with was an Asian man, and most Green Lanterns are weak against the color yellow. So
Oh,
it's
you
like,
son of a bitch! I knew you were gonna pull that shit off. You bitch ass motherfucker.
but this particular Green Lantern doesn't
I
have that weakness, so I was like, that's the one to choose.
fucking hate you. I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you, bruh. You son of a bitch.
And, but is he the one you were telling me from Earth 2? Is he the one that's in the cartoon, the Young Justice?
Technically, yes and no. Yeah, technically it is him, but it's a different name. You know how they do with alternate universe shit.
Right.
So yeah, so it's like technically it's him, and technically it's not. It's complicated.
Right.
That's all.
Just like Devil Ray is technically Black Manta.
Man, we ain't gonna talk about that shit. Jesus Christ, like that was a mixed bag. But yeah, pretty much essentially.
Yeah, and I think they had good intentions because it's like it's a black character and he's named Black, and they're like, well, maybe we should call him something different. And then they realize like, no, people liked it the way it was. Just like when they tried to change the name of Black Panther to Black Leopard or something.
I can't fucking remember. They tried to do some stupid shit, but I
Well, I
know the
shouldn't
reason
say
was Black.
tried. They did, but then they quickly changed it back.
Yeah, it was weird. I understood the reasoning why, but I still wouldn't have done it. That's just me though. Yeah, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get to work on this, man. You got any closing arguments? Anything closing arguments before we go ahead and shut this bitch down?
I'm not going to make a closing argument, but I do want to make a closing statement that has virtually nothing to do with what we've discussed, and that
Yeah,
is
you know what I meant.
with the new Star Wars. So far, I'll be honest, I'm not enjoying it. A lot of the stuff that we were leery about is starting to show itself. But
Ooh.
my thing is like I am not going to be another one of these toxic fanboys. It's like either walk away or do your best to roll with it. As of right now, I'm rolling with it. If it gets super, super bad, I will just stop. But I have a strong feeling this is going to be like Solo, where I only watch it because I watch every Star Wars movie every year except for Solo. I only watch
Yeah,
that one like every 3 years. And I feel like this show is going to become that. I'll watch it, but it's not that great, and I'm only going to watch it every once in a great while. But
yeah,
I don't mind being toxic with other stuff, but because Star Wars is so overloaded with toxicity, it's like, dude, just if you don't like it, that's cool. I get it. Walk away.
yeah. From what I heard, ooh, yeah. From what I heard, this third episode, I haven't seen it, but I've already heard it's gonna make people walk away from this fucking show. It's gonna make people walk away from Star Wars entirely, from what I've been hearing.
Oh yeah, and maybe next week we can get into it a little more.
Oh,
Once the
dude,
third
yeah, of
episode
course.
comes out. But like, yeah, dude, and the funny thing is it's all the stuff we were worried about, all the stuff like that they were talking about that made all the fans go, I don't know if this is going to be good. Like all that
Yeah,
stuff is showing itself right away, and that's what really makes it bad. It's the aha, I told you so.
yep. I already know it's coming, dude. I already knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when it was gonna happen, you know.
Hopefully, Skeleton Crew will be better.
Yeah, we shall see, man. But I'm not gonna hold my breath on it. I'm not holding my breath. But yeah, that being said, we'll go ahead and close this bitch out. And this was your boy Darkstar, and I will definitely see you on the next one. And like I said earlier, some like you said, some race swapping is good, some is bad, some gender bending is good, some is bad, and some tokenization is good, some is bad. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get the fuck out of here. And if anybody's offended by that shit, is all I gotta say.
Everyone on the roster, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Seriously, I'm unapologetic in anything that was said in this show. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and take. We're gonna go ahead and take off. Oh, go ahead, go ahead, man. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Hmm?
but other than that, we out this bitch. Peace.
Peace.